Hey guys, I'm doing this as a sort of preface to the next part of the Motorized Turntable project. The reason being that over quite a few days I've been picking away at it, which sometimes makes it hard to remember the continuity element from the video angle. And I know from the number of video clips I've got that part 5 will certainly not be the end of it. So it's an ongoing thing. Changing my mind on this and that and finding odd problems, trying to get over them. And this, what I hope is the latter stage, which is to do with the brush contacting element. It's dragging on a bit, and at some point I will have to call a halt to the size of part 5, which doesn't really achieve a whole lot. It just shows you the process of trying to get this darn thing finished. So anyway, here is the next sort of selection of bits and pieces of progress, and I don't know whether part 6 will wrap it up or not, but if you've stuck with it, thank you. Thanks again also to those folks who have subscribed. I've been very impressed by the number of people who have subscribed to this old man, and keep watching if you can. We'll get to a final solution, I hope, and have a look at what's coming for part 5. Be patient, and we'll see you later on. The project continues. This is probably the most awkward, fiddly stage when I think about it, and I'm running the video just to document what I'm doing, which may or may not work, so we might have loads of mistakes, and this is all to try and get set up for brush contact, etc. Now I've made here's a piece of scrap aluminum here, and whether this is going to work I'm not sure. Got a 5/8 hole here for the center pin down there, and that is across there. I've JB welded it in place. It's a broken off piece of carbide drill, and I've sharpened it to what may or may not be a cutting edge, because what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and cut a circle out of here, having put this darn plate on all over, not plate, sheet. All the input I've had from comments, which I value immensely. You know, you can't think of everything, and other folks come up with ideas, and it just all goes in the melting pot. Plus, of course, what I've got available in terms of parts and material. So what I thought I'd try and do, if this works, is to try, this is going to be very interesting, to try and cut out a circle here which is just a bit less than the diameter of the turntable, which will basically protect this underneath area, gets rid of the aluminum as an electrical contact aspect, so I can hopefully mount a delta configuration for the brushes somehow. And the wood is a pretty good insulator, and I just had a comment suggesting that I feed the brush array from underneath. Well, that's extremely logical, absolutely logical. So possibly drill through. I've got some very heavy gauge cable which I can probably use for that. Go down and through and cut a groove to the edge. But then there are loads of other considerations, so I'm going to see if I can cut through this sheet and get this piece off, which will be interesting. Guess what, it's cold again in here. Just about seen my breath today. Right, I've just about finished this cut. It's pretty hard going, I'll tell you, because the homemade carbide cutter is in a V. It's probably about a 60-degree V, so I'm actually getting down to depth, although it's only 24 gauge. It still takes a bit of work to get the cut. I can see I'm through virtually all the way around. I'm just going to take this pin out. The next thing then is to see what method we can use to remove this piece of aluminum. Well, I think we're coming loose. This is just a screwdriver job here, and it is coming off, which is amazing. Eureka, as the saying goes. Actually got that to come off. So, I don't know what we're going to do with that piece, but anyway. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to put the turntable. Oh no, I can't put it. Yes, I'll put it back on just for a minute. I remember where I put everything. I've just taken that out. I'm going to bring that up a little too for extra clearance, because I can bring the motor and pulley up probably 3/16, maybe a bit more. There we are, that's well underneath, and I don't think any spatter is going to be a major problem there. So now we've got to work out just exactly what we're going to do for mounting the brushes. I got this is just a piece cut off the channel that happens to be inch ID, and I can put I can get a brush running like that. Got to cut the tops off here, and see what we can do. I think these braided feed cables, particularly if I've got 3, and a contact ring to hook them up to, I think the wood's going to be a good enough insulator actually. So let's press on and see what other ideas we can come up with. Alright, well, this is dummying up. First try out. I brought the main spindle up a little. I've got a sample piece of SRBP phenolic underneath the aluminum, which is planned to be a brush guide. This is just a dummy piece. I'll make one a bit wider, and of course the brush will need to be reprofiled. So I think what we're going to do here, working on this basis, is we'll have a ring of SRBP on top of the wood for extra insulation, and we'll probably put a copper ground band all around that somehow. I'm going to drill through and use a router to get a channel underneath here for a ground cable. And what else? There's I've got to find a way of spring tensioning the brushes, of course. I think the next step is I'm going to make a dummy hub, because I need something that I can put abrasive paper on to work the brushes to a new profile. So we'll see where we go from there. Right, we're going to make a dummy hub, which will give me some positioning guide on the turntable spindle, and just going to drill out. Just bring a ½ inch down, and then I'll put a 5/8 down. Turn the outside, which I'll turn to, I think it's about 1/300 or just under. Probably turn it just a smidgen under, and then I can later on put some abrasive paper on here and find a way to profile the brushes. I'm looking for something just over 1 inch to the very bottom because it's going to be resting on the ball bearing. It's only approximate. That's just shy of 1 inch, so we'll go another few thou, I think. That may be enough. None of this is super critical actually, but see what we've got. And take it down to the drill point middle, which is where the ball will touch. Yeah, that'll do. Anyway, we're going to put the 5/8 through yet, which I've got to find. I think I've got a decent 5/8. Not sure that's, although it's a pretty crappy old drill, it does seem to drill pretty much to size. Let's just see what we've got, whether I come up to the limit. Yeah, that'll work. Anything now is whether the spindle will go in, because the spindle was machined to quite a tight tolerance. That's going in. Oh, it's just a smidgen tight. I'll just run the drill down one more time. Just probably won't be enough. Just see if it clears a little more. No, there's no extra, and I don't think I've got a, not sure if I've got a 5/8 reamer actually. So I'll probably try another trick. It's not very critical with the spindle, other than the fact that I don't want it to get stuck in there. It just wants to be an adequate fit. See if I can get any improvement here. It's still a bit tight. Try with some coarser paper. Try this, it's just larger grit. Let's check the depth. It's still the ball to go on top, ball bearing. In fact, I can use another size if I need to. Let's see what that measures at. That plus the ball, yep, we're there. Alright, so a quick cheat with abrasive paper was all we needed. Now I'm just going to turn down the outside, get that something close to what size we want. Well, from this first bit here I've only got about 30 thou to take off each side, I think. In theory, there's only another 10 thou to go. And it really is not super accurate, super critical, but just keep tabs on where we are. On where we are. Let's see what we got. 335. Yeah, it's got a little way to go yet. I'll just check with the vernier actually, because I was checking with that earlier just to see what we had. $25, $35, $40. Yeah, actually got about 20 thou to go yet. Oh, I've taken a bit more. We should be something like 1.295 or a little less, doesn't matter. 2955. So I'm going to stick it at that just for the moment, and I don't any bother to face. Oh, I might just run the face across that just for whatsits and giggles. It's not very important, really. There's a little bit there that it missed, but what the heck does that matter? At the moment, it doesn't. Alright, that should work for what I want. So we'll take it out and see what we can do on the turntable, with the turntable spindle. I'll tell you what guys, it's blowing a gale outside, you may well hear it. I'm leaving the camera where it was, I just zoomed in real tight, just hoping to see what's happening here. So what we've got, here's the dummy hub, and what I'm doing here is, again remind you, this piece of aluminum is a bit short, it's not a final holder, but what we're trying to do is to get, this needs to be down in probably another 30 seconds. But we've got a piece of phenolic here, which I may or may not use underneath. Then we've got the aluminum and then the brush. So the brush will actually be working on the lower 3/4 of the hub, leaving about a 1/4 inch, maybe slightly less, to the shoulder of the hub, so we should have clearance. So we're going to use this to get a profile on the brushes, and in the meantime I'm going to try and cut through here, drill through, and maybe run the router down, get an access point in for the earth feed, ground feed cable. I meant to mention, incidentally, the main reason for having this dummy hub is for getting the positioning right for the brushes. That's all it's doing. And then I'm going to glue some abrasive paper on it. Well, setting up a brush is far from easy. In the end, I've had to put the vertical mill in so that I can get it the right way round. I can't fit it in a tool holder, and of course I've got it 1 inch vertical, and I put some paper on the false boss, the what did I call it earlier? I put some paper on the dummy boss. I've set up center on the brush, and I'm going to see if I can get this to come down. It's taking the dust off pretty quick. We'll see how we go. You probably won't be able to see a lot from there, but I got the camera in a weird perched position. Let's try and inspect it. Well, it's making a start. It's going to be slow going. Let's see if we can actually achieve it. Manage it on one, and I hopefully can manage it on the others. Well, the paper's come off the first time. I'll have to clean that up, re-glue it. But we're getting something of a profile forming, so I think it's going to work. It's just darn awkward. One of those things where you've got to improvise and work out a way to do it. So I'm going to clean the brass up, put some more adhesive on, and we'll probably get back to this tomorrow, which will be a couple of seconds time. I've reapplied some abrasive paper, and so far I've got this brush close to completion, but of course the further I go in, the bigger the surface area, so I might well leave this one as it is. I'll just give it one more pass. Let's see. I think I'm going to go stop at that and do the same with the others if the abrasive paper stays put. This is what we've got. You can see it hasn't come quite to the edges, but that deals with the main area, and that should be a very close approximation to the hub contour. So we'll try and get the others done and hopefully make the abrasive paper stay put and last. Well, we got this paper applied better with a diagonal join. That seems to have held out. I'm just literally the last little skim on the third brush. It's been a bit hairy because I haven't dared put too much feed pressure on. I think we'll probably leave it there actually. The wind's up again, just in case you might hear it. The joys of winter. Right, now these are not taken absolutely to the very limit. They're dimensionally pretty good, but I'm leaving it at that. It's still going to give me a fairly good contact area. You can probably see that's pretty close. I can't hold the camera and the brush. There we are. That's pretty close. The thickness of the abrasive paper has probably made a fractional difference, but I think we'll be good to start off. So the next thing is now is to work out the something efficient for brush holders, and then spring tensioning, etc., etc. Time to make a few more changes. Haven't really got much done since I did the brushes. I'm going to take a hole through here to the underneath, and then we'll run a router down to the outside to give access for, which I got some I've got two lots of cable. I've got some heavier stuff which is probably good for 180, and a slightly thinner one which I may use for a jumper later on. Now the other plan, let me just zoom in a bit, is because I keep going about plans, don't I? This is like thinking out loud sort of thing. So the brushes will be all the way around there in a sort of delta, and then each of the braided wires I think will bond those. I don't know whether soldering will be enough. It may be actually, if there's plenty of it, but I'm going to think of stapling. I have a ground ring. That's one example, and that's actually copper tube, but then I've got another couple of options. I stripped some insulation off some very heavy gauge stuff which I put away now, but it's pretty hefty stuff, and twisted it up. I've got two of those, and the copper pipe. So I don't know what I'm going to use yet. Basically the idea is to bring in that ground lead, hook it up to what we'll call a ground ring, and use that ring for attaching the connections to the brushes, which should, I think, be adequate. So I'm just going to get let's see if we can get a hole through here. I'm just going at a slight angle. If this stops slipping around. Something tells me this drill needs sharpened. Let's freshen that up. I'll try again and see if we can get through here. Okay, actually I could have zoomed back a bit. So that should have got through to underneath, and then we'll set up and run a router through there. Just take a second pass. It's not meant to be super accurate. Doesn't have to be, but try and keep this thing following the straight edge. I'll just take another deeper cut, see if that's enough for the cable. Hopefully. I think that might be enough. I may sand that edge. I made very rough. Let's clean up off the floor when I think about it. Actually, the whole shop needs cleaned at the moment. You've got stuff everywhere. So let's see what. Make sure that will sit properly, and that's almost deep enough. I think I'll take one more pass and then I can put some little clips across there. Right, well, this goes through the groove and out through the angled hole. This end I don't know quite, I may leave it fairly long and put a piece of copper plate or something on there for clipping to. And then this end, let's zoom in a bit. Not quite sure how it's going to work out. This is usual me, suck it and see, experimental. But one way or another, I've actually flattened this copper tube. There's no need to keep it as tubular. And then one of my prepared rings of heavy gauge 3-core. So we'll find a way to get this, probably splade this out a bit and bed it underneath the copper ring. I did mention earlier, actually, I was going to use some SRBP phenolic as a layer under here. I don't really see a lot of point, to be honest. I think wood is a good enough insulator for my purpose. I don't really want to bother with another layer underneath. So if we ground the cable to the copper ring, which can be probably pin that in 4 places, and then we'll have this piece on top and use that to capture the connectors on the end of the copper cables, the copper braided on the brushes. Can't think of the words at the moment. And then probably use some staples or something to pin everything down real tight, so we've got good contact. Hopefully that'll be enough. Some may think it's not adequate, but I think it will be, bearing in mind that most of the time I'm not going to be welding super high current on here. I doubt if I should be going above 120 on the stick welder, let alone the 90-ish on the cheapy wire welder. Well, the evolutionary process, I think, is a bit of a hiccup. This copper ground ring I put in, I'll have to make a new one, get myself further out, probably about 3/4 of an inch further out, because we've got to have some brush springs. And the only set of 3 that I can find, which are almost identical, are the very, very strong type that you get on a starter motor. But I think I'm going to have to use them because I'm going to need a pretty good contact. And unfortunately, in order to get one in position, it's going to, you might be able to see. Well, I can get in closer. Alright, it's a little bit closer, you might be able to see. So what happens is here, the inner coil with the retaining portion is almost over the copper strip. And as I say, I've got to have good spring tension on these. So we've got to make a new grounding loop, maybe a new one of these to go on top to capture the, maybe a new topped piece to capture the tabs for the brushes. It's all suck it and see, and I've got to make the brush guides yet, so there's an awful lot to do. This is by far the most awkward part of the whole process. You might see here I've brought the it's just on the edge of the picture. I brought the ground cable in, which is captive under the copper ring, so I'll have to slightly modify that. And I hadn't thought about these brush springs sufficiently before, but we'll get over it. The other thing I shall have to do is, when these are under tension, which they'll have to be before the turntable goes on, I will have to make a dummy ring, probably just under the thickness of the brush guides, so I can put that in place to hold the brushes slightly back, get the turntable on, and then push the guide ring down to the very bottom. Just another bit of fun. So we're not there yet, guys. It's a long old job, and I'm determined to get finished eventually. Whether I do an update video in the meantime, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Well, you stayed with it thus far, with mistakes and hiccups and one thing and another. So for the time being anyway, as I always try and say, thanks for watching.